Sometimes I look at my life and ask myself, where did the time go? Because sometimes in my body I feel like I'm still in my 20s. I'm still that young, budding Black woman stepping into my purpose, stepping into my mission, right? I remember starting college like it was yesterday. And I was 18 years old, of course. And I always knew that I would be someone great. I always had it inside of me that I had a special calling on my life, that I was not called to live a mediocre life. That's always something that has been inside of me, right? And I pride myself in knowing that. And so I just look back over my life and just wow, life is truly amazing. And time passes by so quickly. And before you know it, the blink of an eye is just voila, right? Here I am in my 40s. And I want to make this video and talking about what life is like as a Black doctor, clinical psychologist, making six figures, right? And I think it's funny because we live in a day and age where it's not far-fetched to acquire a decent living, especially with the many resources that we have at our fingertips, especially with social media. There are multiple ways to earn a decent living, right? Now, I can go back, way back, and talk about how I first entered the field of psychology. It's saying that I have a slow connection. I don't know why, but hopefully I am coming in clear. So I can talk about how I stepped into the field of psychology, which was back, I would say, in 2003. I initially had expressed interest in pursuing a career in computer science, but then things kind of took a different course. And as part of the fulfillment to a bachelor's degree, right, they expect you to take a social science course. And so I had taken a social science course in psychology. And with that, I immediately fell in love with the field of psychology. And it's the course, the rest is history. But a lot has happened along the way, which I haven't really talked about. You guys know certain pieces, certain fragmented pieces of my life, but you don't really know, right, the full story, right? And I've been holding on to this ever-growing autobiography that I initially began writing in 2009. So it's a long time coming. So it was last year in 2023, November 2023, where I finally crossed the threshold of becoming a six-figure earning individual. You say best field is psychology. So remind me, Francine, where are you located? I think you also said that you are a psychologist. But where are you located? So, of course, things have changed drastically for me within the past couple of years, right? Now, those who truly know me know that I am a social entrepreneur, right? I'm a go-getter, right? I'm going to find a way. I'm going to make things happen. And I pride myself in being able to establish a degree of independence, right? From the matrix, from the system, to be able to earn money independent of a 9 to 5, right? So I have to premise this part of the video by saying that first and foremost. But I want to say that, and kind of stepping into this six-figure realm, right? And being a doctor. Of course, things have changed. Of course, right? Of course, my social status has changed. Of course, my living experience has changed. Of course, where I live has changed. Of course, the way people perceive me has changed. Of course, the way that people relate to me has changed. And I remember having a conversation with one of my professors in my doctoral program in my first year when I was pursuing my doctoral studies out in Los Angeles. I asked her, I said, will there be noticeable differences when we, as a cohort of budding psychologists, right, and we're all in our first year of this PhD program in clinical psychology, will there be noticeable differences when we become licensed, right, in terms of our socioeconomic status? And immediately she said, yes. I remember it like it was yesterday, right? I remember this conversation like it just happened. And immediately my professor said, yes. A resounding yes. There will be differences, right? But it was a kind of peculiar conversation because she did not go into detail as to what those differences are. Granted, this is in the context of a intercultural processes class. We're talking about cultural diversity, racial discrimination, racial disparities, white supremacy, like all of those constructs, right? And it had me thinking like, okay, my life is going to change. Things are going to be different than what they were. My life has definitely been a roller coaster. Like, I need to go ahead. I keep saying I need to go ahead and release my book. And it's funny because I began writing my story, my autobiography, back in 2009. We're in 2024. So this book is like long overdue. But when it's published, it will definitely help to put some things into perspective. Like for those who follow me here on social media, on YouTube, Facebook, for those who actually know me in real life, can attest that yes, I am a very peculiar person. Like I always say, it's something about you. You say I've worked hard and I have a license. So it's like, when I look back over my life, right, and look at the different eras and stages that I've gone through as it relates to socioeconomic status, right, and the level of income that I've earned, as that factors into my quality of life, right, and what my life actually looks like. Yeah, I can say I've lived, right? I know what it's like to be homeless. I know what it's like to panhandle. I know what it's like to be judged from the outside looking in, from people who don't quite fully understand your story and know the big picture, right? And I can say this, even going through like that period, right, where I was homeless, which was a very unforgettable moment in my life, I always knew, like I always carried with me at my core, I always had maintain a core belief of who I am and what my potential is, what my aspirations are, right? What my abilities are. I always knew that, despite any circumstance that I've ever faced. And so even during the period when I was like homeless, right? I was a struggle phase. Your girl was down bad for a significant period of my life. And this was when I was living in Atlanta, Georgia. I have to pause for a second. Because I look at like the different things that I position myself in, right, and allow myself to go through. And even in that context, like, of course, I've always had family. So I think sometimes people may make the assumption like, oh, a person is homeless, like they don't have family, they must not have people that care about them. Like for me, it's always been about me wanting to be independent, provide for myself, have a sense of autonomy, knowing like, yo, I can do this, right? So of course I have family. Of course I still have family, right? But it's just like I wanted to show myself, right? And show the world, show my family that I can do this. So no one wants to rely on family, especially here in America, right? We have been kind of socialized and conditioned within this context of individualism. To take care of ourselves, to fend for ourselves. And I can never forget the conversation like me and my mom had when it came down to the nitty gritty, to the last straw, came down to the wire. And I gave in, I called my mom and I'm like, Mom, here's what it is. And she told me, she said, just come home. Just come home. And why are you putting your number there? Like, I feel like people like you are kind of creepy. You say you're in Arizona. You kind of creeping me out, leaving your phone number. Like, yo, like people like you, I'll block, right? Like, I'm not gonna call you. I don't call anyone. That's not my vibe. I don't call anyone who follows me on social media. Like, why would you think that I will call you? Why would I call you? But anyway, so she was like, just come home, babe. Just come home. And I'm like, mm-mm. But I did come home at that point. I had to, right? And like I said, when I'm in the position I am now and I reflect back, it's just like, I pride myself on how far I've come, but then I look at how much further that I can go. And when I say like different aspects of my reality have changed, I think about the current context in which I work. So I work in a hospital here in New York City, and I think about my colleagues and, even just being a black woman, a black female doctor, we know is rare, right? Black psychologists only make up 3% of all of American psychologists, right? Here in this country. And I get it, like it's not a familiar thing to a lot of people. It's not something that a lot of people are used to. So when it comes to ways people like interact with me and relate to me, like I get it, right? I put everything in a context. But something like happened, interestingly enough, within the past month, I would say. And I was awarded, so I've been at my new position as a licensed psychologist, obviously since like November 2023, right? So roughly about 3 months. And within this 3 month span of time, I was awarded the Shining Star, right, of the hospital where I work. One of the Shining Stars, right? It's like a nomination. And it wasn't so much me receiving the nomination that I was kind of jarred by, and that kind of bothered me or concerned me. It was more so the reaction that I got from people around me, from black faces, black women, who, by the way, have shown me undying love, admiration, support. But I get it. It's like a part of them felt envious because they were saying that they have worked for this hospital longer than I have, but they didn't receive a shining star, a gold shining star. There's other experiences that, of course, I will go into in my book, right? When it comes to just what it's like, what is my experience like? What does it feel like being a black psychologist as it relates to other people in my profession, other black people in my profession? It's just like people look at you and they think that, oh, you think you all that. You think you all that. And I find that to be unnerving. That sometimes it can be annoying. It's disturbing. It is kind of disrespectful in a way because it's just like if people knew all the shit you had to go through. Like literally all the shit, yo. It's like what people have this perspective of you. If they knew, all right? They only see like your glory, but they just don't know your story. And knowing that it has been nothing but struggle, challenges, and obstacles, and heartache, and headache, and some sleepless nights, fighting, war, and it continues, right? And then there are comparisons, right? It's just like people look at themselves and where they are in their life, and they compare themselves to you. And, for me, of course, we've all done that, right? Like, yes, I've been in a position where I've looked at where I was in life and compared myself to other people. But I don't take that stance of being envious of my fellow brethren, sistren, right? Like, especially when it comes to Black people. Now, if anything, I express a degree of admiration because I am constantly striving to improve myself. I'm constantly striving to better myself, to learn. All right. And what better way to learn than looking up to people who are where you want to be? So to me, like that, yeah, it concerns me. And because I'm a very spiritual person, I'm very in tune with nature. And I see right through people. It's like you can look at a person and see like the spirit or spirits that they contain. So I know what the spirit of jealousy looks like, right? I can smell it, I can feel it. Spirit of envy looks like. And to me, I know how to handle it because I've dealt with this before. This is not anything new. Being born to a family, especially with my father, who held me in high regard, right, and set high standards for himself. Same with my mom. I've always been a star person, right? So being a star employee is not surprising when you've earned, let's say, straight A's throughout grade school, right? And was on the honor roll and, received innumerable amounts of awards and just got a lot of praise going up. Like, that's what I'm used to. I'm used to getting praise, right? So it's not something that is not familiar to me. I'm used to being held to a high expectation, especially by my mother, even my father. I grew up in a 2-parent household, right? So I've had that bar set for me at a very early age. I know what success feels like, looks like. Like, this is not anything new to me, right? Me being in the position that I am, it's not a surprise to me, right? Because like I said, this is like has been my trajectory throughout my entire life, knowing that I am successful, therefore I will be successful right in the future. And I surround myself with people who are equal to who I am. Like, I attract those kind of people and I repel those other kind of people, right, who aren't necessarily used to that. An interesting conversation that happened this week, actually. So we got a new patient on my unit, a white woman, older white woman, and she said to me as I was doing her evaluation, before I began the evaluation, she said, "Are you from the ghetto?" It's like random. Are you from the ghetto? And then she asks, like, do you live in the ghetto? And I'm looking at her like, wow, I've never been asked that, right? But for me, like, there's this whole debate about, self-disclosure, how much clinicians, psychologists should disclose when it comes to their interactions with patients and clients, Of course, I'm always gauging, right? And self-assessing, but I felt it was appropriate, and I said, yeah, I used to actually live in the ghetto. I'm from the ghetto. But I made it out. And she gives like this funniest response. She says, I am so glad you made it out. It could have went left, but she was like, I'm so glad you made it out. And I felt her energy. I felt that she was coming from a very genuine place. And I'm like, thank you. Thank you. And in the follow-up discussion I had with one of my colleagues, and I expressed like this conversation as I was recalling it with my colleague. And I'm telling her like, yeah, I'm far, far, far away from the ghetto. Geographically speaking, but however, of course, I'm always still connected. And that question kind of just made me reflect and made me think like, It puts things into perspective because for a person who is a high achieving person like myself, right, you're always, aspiring to become something great. And once you become that greatness, right, then you're aspiring to the next level, the next level, the next level, right? Constantly challenging yourself to achieve higher heights. It's like you can be so focused, so goal driven, goal oriented, so on the go, to the point where you don't really take time to look back and like, damn, look what I have achieved, look what I have amassed, right? Like, but there's still always so much more to go. So I say all this to say, of course life is good. Of course life will always be good, right? It's always a constant reflection for me and looking at life. And someone commented on my post a little while back. This was last year. Not so long after I had stepped into the 6-figure club. And this person says, you don't look like you make 6 figures. And the thing is, like, when you know who you are, which of course I've always been tapped in, you're secure in who you are. It's like not really much can really bother you, can get you off your rocker, It's like you're desensitized to it, kind of immune to it. So like my response is like, okay, thanks. I think, because for me, it's just the way my mind works, like the way I process information that could be perceived as something negative, right, or bad. Sometimes I filter it through a particular lens where, I don't even say sometimes, usually it benefits me, right? Like I have that skill to kind of alchemize energy in a positive way where it serves to my benefit. Someone may call it narcissism. Narcissists are pretty good at this though. Kind of being able to kind of turn things around and use different things to your benefit, right? That's a skill. And so I'm just like, thank you. I mean, I see it in a good light because it's a good thing that people from the outside may look at you and think that, okay, you're not in a certain category, right? Or may think less of you. That actually could be a protective factor. It's actually riskier for people to know and see you as that person who has a quote unquote lot of money, right? And then another thing I'm going to also say is that once you step, for a lot of people, I'm sure who are watching this, have stepped across that line and making six figures or more, it's just like, especially when you have reported this income to the fucking IRS, it's not really that much, right? It's not really that much money. And then you make $500,000 and it's like, it's not really that much money. You make $1 million. Like, it's not really that fucking much money, right? Because the thing is, your lifestyle changes. That's why. So it's like your lifestyle is commensurate to how much you're making, and you realize that we all live in the same fucking society. We live in the same world. And many things are really an illusion that we may perceive these rankings in society, right? Like we kind of buy into, the upper class, the middle class, the lower class, the fancy restaurants, and then you have enough money to experience those fancy restaurants, to live in posh neighborhoods, to be associated and affiliated with higher income earning people, and then you realize, like, it's really fucking fabricated. It's really fake. It's unreal. It's an illusion. That's essentially what it is. It's bogus. But of course, I think why people play the game, and for those who are still following along, y'all have good comprehension skills. Because sometimes I can speak in kind of allegoric language and metaphors that some people don't really get. But it's just like, I think people continue to play along with this game because it feeds their ego. It feeds their sense of self-worth and self-importance in society. And yeah, it makes them feel good, you know? But I'm going to say this, I'm about to wrap this video up. It's like, as I step into this whole six-figure category, sometimes, and I know other people can relate, it's like sometimes I kind of want to be poor. Now, let me be careful with my words, because I know words carry power. I know that we could kind of speak things into existence. We do. That's the reality of things. But I'm like, yeah, sometimes I kind of reminisce on like, the good old days, or the days where I was able to make a couple dollars stretch, right? And it became like this challenge, where I developed this degree of resiliency and strength. And I can feel like, I can see where, like, the more income I earn, I feel like, in a sense, I'm becoming, I'm becoming more like detached from nature. And that's not something I want. So it's a balancing act. It's just like, how do you obviously attain resources that correlates to you being able to sustain a comfortable lifestyle, a reasonable lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle. But meanwhile, stay in tune with who you are at your core, who you should be, who you were born to be, right? That's the challenge within this society that we live in. And yeah, reminiscing the good old days, just the struggle phase, because I feel like that's where I felt more connected. Connected to people, family, connected to friends, connected just to nature, life. And you like it's like you see it coming, right? It's like before you get to that threshold, right? Before you get to that point where you've attained a higher level of social status, and you're kind of looking up through this glass ceiling, as they call it, right? And you are seeing people that you maybe see certain characteristics in people that you aspire to be like, or you see yourself in, or you see a future, right? In their current lifestyle, see yourself in that. And it's just like, yeah. And then it's like you cross over, and I've been at this point before, right? In many different phases of my life being very dynamic in my evolution. And it's just like, I've been at this point, at this crossroads to make a decision to determine like, is this what I really want, right? And then from the outside, looking into other people's lives who are there, right? And you kind of do this analysis to see like, is this really what I want? What is it, right? What is it that I want? And I think all these questions are meaningful, or kind of existential questions to ask yourself through this process of becoming that person that you are, of like actualizing into that person that you're designed to be. I've had many moments as I've reached this point where I am today. There are many moments that have surfaced where I honestly, and I don't think I'm far from that. Like I speak kind of retrospectively, but I'm not too far from that point where I'm like, I can let all this shit go. Because what is it? Like, what does it really mean? What is the meaning of it? All right? What is the meaning of having all this fucking money? What is the meaning of having, like, literally a surplus of money where I'm literally throwing money away? How am I throwing money away? The food that I buy, I don't even fucking eat all of it. It goes in the garbage, right? I have excess where I'm buying lots and lots of clothes to the point where I don't even have room for it anymore. I'm donating bags and bags of clothes and shoes. I have more than enough. Way more than enough. You know? And it's just like, what is the meaning of it all? I do understand, like, when it comes to dating, right? And hello, for everyone who's here, don't be afraid. I think sometimes I can come off as being like intimidating or whatever. Feel free to interact as Mustang has, as Ibrahim has, right? As Francine has. Feel free. Feel free to ask questions. But yeah, it's like I have more than enough, and I've been at a point where like I can just give it all away. Detach myself from this ideology and this illusion, this false sense of reality of what is, right? The game as we know it. The game that most people have bought into, right? Most people are playing the game of capitalism, this game of self-sufficiency. This game of essentially who makes the most money, right? This game of who has the most resources. And it's just like, what does it all mean? Oh, I know what I was saying. So, like, in the context of dating, right? It's just like, I've come across some men who have said, oh, well, literally, they've said, like, literally, and some have kind of insinuated to say, I don't care about your PhD, right? Now, one could interpret that statement in many different ways, right? And of course, like me being a black conscious um, black woman, initially my reaction to that is like, okay, you're basically saying you don't care about the white man's credentials. So you think of, what is a degree? What is it, right? Who created college degrees? And then you think of who issued the degree, right? Where did the degree come from? I can understand black men speaking from that context, right? And then through a different lens, it's just like, I ask myself sometimes, well, are you saying that you don't care about my accomplishments? You don't care about what I've put into this credential? Does it make you feel a certain kind of way? Apparently it does. That you don't have, and then ask yourself, okay, would you like to have? If you could have, but you can't have, or maybe it's very difficult, more difficult for you to have. So you devalue, right? There comes the cognitive dissonance. So of course you hold or place lesser value on what I have because you're unable to have. All right, I ask myself these things. These are just things that kind of float through my mind. And I know, like I've said when I started this video, my reality has changed. My perspective has changed. And it comes as a result factored by my socioeconomic status, right? It goes without saying. I know this because I do a lot of self-reflection, and through that self-reflection, I know that when your girl was broke, okay, just down and out, it's like people tolerate more. When they hold less perceived value, they tolerate more bullshit in relationships. When they hold less perceived value. And that perceived value obviously is factored by how much you are worth, right? How much income do you make? People try to dismiss it like, oh, it don't really mean nothing, but it means a lot. How much income you have determines your purchasing power, determines where you live. And all of this kind of sums up to your confidence that you have, the authority that you have in this society, the place that you are in society. Looking back, like I say, you can look back at things, hindsight, retrospectively, you see so much more, right? So looking back at my life, it's just like, damn, I don't tolerate nothing. I mean, I've always been a woman that's very strong-willed, very confident. Like, this confidence has always been with me when I was a college student, when I was homeless, when I have shit, right, in my bank account. But it kind of showed up a little bit differently, right, in terms of what I was willing to tolerate. So I had confidence definitely in myself. But when it came to like what I would be willing to accept, I can definitively and honestly say, Mustang says, nice look, thank you, that I definitely tolerated and was able to accept much more. But it's just like, as my income increased, and that income, like, it reflects upon so many different things. So this whole conversation, this whole narrative about, the cheesecake factor and specifically Black women, should lower their standards and shouldn't be so picky and count guys out who can only afford to take a woman to the Cheesecake Factory. But it's just like, if a woman is making some decent money and she's taking herself to places that are far beyond the quality of a Cheesecake Factory food and service, right? Then who are you to be mad at a woman that treats herself to nice things? That's another side of the argument, right? But then, like I said, of course, I have my moments where I've self-reflected and thinking back to like, the good old days when, hell, a burger and fries was good enough at Sonic, right? I had to live off what I could afford at the time when I was homeless, accepting donations, asking for donations, panhandling. And yeah, so it's just like, what got me through those difficult times. And I was able to maintain a degree of happiness and strength and survival. And that actually was a time when I actually achieved a lot when it came to stepping into my entrepreneurial endeavors, creating a brand, many brands for myself, and making money separate from corporate America, the traditional 9 to 5 job, right? So there was something to gain even in that struggle phase. And so oftentimes I reflect back to that point in time and compare my lived experience now versus then. And I think like, yo, I had clearly way less money. I have no money. Fuck, I have no fucking money. I have no income. Fucking nothing in my bank account. But the things that I was able to achieve. And so you kind of do this kind of analysis, of your situation to see, well, damn, which was better. Because as the saying goes, it's like more money, more problems. I can definitely see that. And being in this situation where I am now, it's like, okay, I'm kind of at the cusp. And I'm continuing to earn more and more money. That's the thing. It's like my earning potential continues to rise. But there's a trade-off, right? And this is a thing that kind of somewhat bothers me. Because it is true, right? Especially for Black women, it's just like the higher you excel of the socioeconomic ladder, it lowers your availability of a dating pool for Black men. Because men are not excelling at the rate that Black women are. It ain't happening. And we know that there are, racial disparities, and Black men are targeted at higher rates when it comes to police, racial discrimination, right? Black men are overrepresented in the prison systems. So that alone right there weakens our dating options, right? Our dating pool for Black women. Of course, they know this. This is not new information. This is part of their strategic warfare against the Black family, the Black community. But it's like, in terms of the outlook for myself, right, and going forward, like I struggle with myself, right, and I know I'm not the only one. I've definitely seen other people come to this point where it's just like, okay, you've done it all. You've, quote unquote, lived the American dream, right? You followed the blueprint and did what has been instructed, right? Go to school, get a college degree, get the highest degree in your field, right? Your chosen field, right? I've done those things. And here I am, right? And it's just like, you ask yourself, okay, what is the meaning of it now that you've achieved those things? Is this it? I ask myself sometimes, like, is this it? This is it? No, this can't be it. But if this is it, then wow. All the things I've sacrificed to get to this point of this being it. So I'm going to save the rest for my autobiography. But yeah, this is life as a Black female doctor making 6 figures. And me just being the competitive, challenging person that I am, who always, aspires to achieve great heights in my life. Of course, this isn't it. Like, I'm always pushing myself to do better, to achieve more. So the next thing, obviously, is a second 7-figure club, right? And you know, it's all a game, right? It's just like, okay, do you choose to play the game or do you not choose to play the game? For me, it's just like, okay, why not play the game? Because playing the game affords you different opportunities that you would have had, you know. But I definitely pride myself and embrace myself for always being self-aware and being able to self-assess the situation, to look at the situation and see, like, okay, where do I stand? And when I come to these crossroads, being able to, you know, reflect and say, all right, is this what I want to do? Or should I pull back? Looking at it, I'm always looking at things through a socio-political lens too. Right? And some of y'all get the picture. Some of you guys can always kind of sense that, okay, yeah, she's very calculated. That I am. And looking at things through that lens, to know that it's not always what things may seem to be on the surface. And there are many different powers that are at play. But yeah. Google you. I'm sorry, Google me. Go, like, for what? Some of y'all, I feel like, are very delusional. I have mentored for a number of years. I mean, that has nothing to do, I feel like, with this video. And this is the thing. I'm not never going to wrap this video. It's like, I feel like people that follow me, some of y'all are like, you know, obviously people that know me in real life. Some of y'all are supporters, people who don't know me in real life. And then some of y'all are just like fucking weird as shit. Like, I don't understand how people come on another person's page or, you know, live video, and you're seeking attention so much to the point where it's like you come into another, it's like coming to a person's party, right, or event, like this person don't even know your motherfucking ass, but you popping up on they shit, and then you just want all the attention to be on you. Like, why the fuck would I call you? You have to be like literally delusional and fucking insane. You have to be. But anyway. Yeah, going back to that comment though, like, funny enough, like one of my patients at work was like, "Oh, you're from the ghetto," and thinking about how, like, I obviously work with, you know, other people, diverse group of people, Black, white, Hispanic, Caribbean people, and it's like they see you, right? They know that, okay, I'm a doctor. 99% of the people at my workplace call me Dr. Leach, right? And with that, some have a reverence, like, oh, you know, a Black sister is a doctor, she put in the work. Some, you know, and it isn't, I get it. Trust me. I mean, I get it. It's like they look at you like, oh, you think you better, or you know, you are bougie, right? Or you're this, you're that. And especially when it comes to dealing with Black people, it's just like they have to test to see, you know, oh, how Black you are. I feel like I don't have to prove anything. I don't prove my Blackness. Like, the shit I've been through in life. But I get it, because it's like once you enter a certain bracket, it's like, oh, you become, damn, fucking motherfuckers. This is New York City, yo. It's like you cross over, you become one of them, right? And so, even at my workplace, one of my colleagues said, "Oh, I'm gonna take your black card," right? This was on over a kind of superfluous conversation about what I was eating, and I told her I was eating some Wingstop, and she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna take your black card." It really wasn't about what I was eating. It really was about her attitudes and feelings towards me, but she kind of used the whole wings thing, right? This is something that she obviously I had already felt, and I get it. I get it, but I feel like it's because they're not in my shoes, right? To have gone through what I've been through. And then when you've gone through what a person's been through, then you develop respect for what they are. Because you've been through that shit, right? But they see you like, okay, you're an other person. You're not a real black person. You're not hood because I don't make the money that they make, right? The little bit of money that they make. I way surpassed that, right? So for me, like looking at my life, it's like I went from not making any money, right, to making fucking six figures. That's just how it went for me. It wasn't really an in between where some people make 30, they make 40, they make 50. It wasn't really in between for me. It was just like, okay, I went from being fucking broke, not making any money, to making six figures. And I can say, yeah, I know what it's like in that space. But this is, I think, the confusing part for people because, you know, you're put into this social status, and then black people who are very much still living in the ghetto, right? It's like there's a disconnect, right? Clearly, there's a disconnect. And I'm the kind of person I feel like, listen, I'm not like, I ain't here to prove shit to no damn body. Right? Because it's like you go through all these different things in your life and you're constantly expected to prove shit to somebody. But that's not a person's job. You don't have to prove anything to no motherfucking body. Right? I feel like that is like the crab in the barrel mentality, because the crabs that are still quote unquote in the barrel are pulling and tugging away at the crabs who, let's say, made it out of the barrel. And when I speak to my patient who asks me, "Oh, you still living in the ghetto?" She asked me, "Do I live in the ghetto?" I said, "No, I used to. No longer in the ghetto, though. I made it out. Making it out of the barrel." It's like they're constantly trying to pull you back in. And through that process, some people fall in the trap of trying to prove shit. And that's how they get sucked back into that low level thinking. The low level lifestyle really is ignorance. You know where you've come from. You don't have to make the mistake and fall back into that trap. But it really is a trap, right? And my response to those different gestures from my family, right? Not my biological family, but my brethren, my sister, who are still in the barrel. Like, my initial response is I kind of smirk, because I get it, right? Mind you, my dissertation was on Black identity, acculturation, implicit racial. This is what I do. This is my passion. This is who I am, right? So I see it, and like, I laugh on the inside, like, I see it, um, But I don't have to slip back into that. If anything, I do separate myself from that, and I only could hope and wish that we as a people are wise enough to open our eyes, no matter what quote unquote level that has been prescribed to us, right, in terms of our socioeconomic status. Just be wise enough. When these things happen, I made videos before. This was like the beginning of my YouTube channel. If you are able to like look at my earliest videos of my YouTube channel, you'll see I made a video about like dealing with hate. I forget the exact title. But like it talks about me kind of dealing with like jealousy and people hating, bullying or whatever. But this is something I've always dealt with because, like I said, I've always been top tier. Like, I can't even brag. This is just who I've always been. And people have always been jealous of your girl. Even in school, right? I talk about in that video, one of my earliest videos on YouTube, how I had a bully, and this was back when I was in middle school. Yes, I think it was like 6th grade, and I was walking home from school, my middle school, and one of my classmates, it was like a lot of us, like, we'll obviously walk home from school, and then some would go in the direction, like, of the projects. But for me, growing up in a 2-parent household, I lived in a house, a home. And so I would kind of go a different direction, right? But up until a couple of blocks, we'll all be walking in the same direction. And this girl came up to me, and she's just like, just random. She was like, I want to fight you. And I'm 6th grade, like 12 years old. She's like, I want to fight you. And she was, much bigger than I was. I've always been very slim. They call me skin and bones. But always been smart, honor roll student. And I look back at her, like, as we're walking home, and I'm just like, why you want to fight me? And she said, I don't know. I want to fight you. It's something about, I don't know. It's just something about you. I just want to fight you. And I knew, I knew then jealousy. And this is me 12 years old. And this was a girl, mind you now. Okay, let me set the context. Mind you, this is a girl. Her name was Queen. This is her real fucking birth certificate name. Where she would always bully people in school, fight, and she always get into fights, right? Like I said, she lived in the projects. Like, everybody was scared of her, right? But this is a thing when it comes to, people from that, looking from the outside in, they see like people who are quote unquote better off or smart kids, right? They just have this assumption like, oh, you're a geek, right? You're a nerd, so you're a pushover. I just find it funny because they then are faced with the truth, right? When they come with that assumption, because they try you, they test you, and they see, okay, okay, right? And then I think people, they are misled to thinking that, okay, either a person is book smart or they're street. Like, no, a person can't be both. And I'm one of those that's both. I got the book smarts, I got the street smarts, like I have the experience. And yes, your girl is fucking from the hood. Like, I know this shit in and out. I'm gangster. I don't like to toot my own horn. But, I feel like that's not something that I need to promote either, though. That's the thing. And I feel like that's where people become misled and confused sometimes, right? because they see like the book smart part of me, and that's like the only part that they see, and they don't know, they can't really put a finger on it. And so when I stopped in my tracks at 12 years old, and I look at her and I'm just like, why you want to fight me? And she was like, I don't know, just cuz. And I said, all right, I'm not backing down. Like, that's one thing about me. I'm not going to back down. You're going to do what you need to do what you need to do. But why should I be afraid and run away from you? That's not how I was raised. My mom damn sure ain't raised no motherfucking bitch. That's not who I am at my core. And so when I stood there and she just like, damn, like it was not a bone, a fear bone in my body. And she saw that, she felt that. She did nothing. She just kept walking. She walked away. I'm just like, yeah, you don't want these motherfucking hands. You don't want these motherfucking hands, yo. But my energy communicated that to her and she walked off. And then after that, it was nothing. And I tell that story because it is a stark reminder of how your people will try a motherfucker, right? Related to jealousy. They see something in you that they like, that they want. They want to test you. They think you weak. Some people equate being a nerd or smart or a geek with being weak, or you can't fight. And like I said, crab in the barrel mentality. That's that ignorant nigga shit. Right? They see, like, you see you in a position, you know, and then here they come with the test, and they want this tug, the crabs in the barrel tugging away. And like for me, I've never been that person. Like I said, I've always been where I am today. I have not. But in being the position that I was before, like I've always like looked up to people who had something in them, let's say, or had something with them that I didn't have, right? But maybe I aspired. If anything, I look up to them. I learn from them. I don't, I'm envious, right? Or try to pull them down. I never really quite, I mean, I get it, right? Because obviously I understand human behavior, but I just never quite really got it. Like, why? Maybe because I've always held this confidence and pride and esteem. I always knew who I was. No matter how much money was in my bank account, because I know who I am. It's independent of how much money I hold in my bank account, or whether or not I make straight A's or A's and B's or what the fuck have you, right? No matter what company or organization I work for, right? Or how much money I'm able to make independently as an entrepreneur, I am who I always knew who I was and who I am. And that's just a takeaway from this, right? But yeah, people will definitely test your gangster. I've been tested many a times because I am, yes, naturally kind of introvert. I'm quiet, very observant though. And I only can just like I can laugh because it's just like there have definitely have been times where I've been tried and I showed motherfucker what these hands be about, and then they just like, well, damn, you know. But for me, because I'm such a kind and sweethearted person, that's not like I don't like that's not who I am. Like I don't like to go in that space to hurt anybody. Right? But I do it to protect myself. I definitely can. I have it within me. I know the power that lives within me. So thank you guys for tuning in. You know, I am glad that people may look at me and say, oh, you don't look like you make 6 figures. Hell, that's fucking good. Great. And then in having conversations even with family, and they find out because they ask, right? And we exchange this information about, how I'm doing, right? What I'm making. And they just like, oh, damn. Right? But this is a good thing, I said, because then comes the problems, right? The more money, more problems that, people feel entitled, like you owe them something. A motherfucker's trying to take from you. And I am naturally, yes, I'm kind-hearted, I'm sweet, but I'm a fighter. Like, I'm a warrior. That's just who I am. That's not going to change, right? I don't let people push over on me. So, motherfucker, you run up on me. Just know I am not going down without a fight. I have everything to lose, and I have nothing to lose at the same damn time. Right? Because essentially all is an illusion. Reality is essentially a figment of our imagination. So I embrace life and all that is within it and all that it has to offer. Catch you guys in the next one.